What up, microplastic enthusiasts? Welcome to Warhammer Absolute Basics Part 4, Priming Your Models. Let's jump right into it. You got your models trimmed and assembled, it's time to prime them up. You generally want to prime your models because primer is a little bit stickier than just paint on plastic, and it reduces the chance of rubbing the paint off your models or chipping them and stuff like that. That's what I've been told. I don't know if that's true, but you basically have three options. One, and this is the one that I do, prime by hand with a brush. Two, rattle can. This isn't primer, this is a varnish, but it's the same concept, honestly. And three is airbrushing. Now, I don't personally airbrush anything because it seems a little bit sweaty to me, and honestly, it's kind of expensive and I just don't want to bother with that. So I use brushes for literally everything. As for primer color, I just use this sort of like a mid-gray primer. You can go up lighter on top of it, and you can go down darker, and it's just a nice midpoint to prime from. You can see I'm a Knights Excelsior collector, so most of the armor plates are white on my models, but all these different like OSL effects and different robe and cloak colors, those are all done over that gray primer, so you're really not going to have any issues with other colors over it. So now we're basically just going to jump right into the priming. I will use this yogurt lid, which is sort of my general purpose sludge and primer palette. I like to put all sorts of different weird products on this one. And the oldest, most thrashed brush that you own. This is kind of like a pretty fat round brush. You can see how it is compared to the mod. Look at that thing. So this thing's absolutely beat to hell. That's perfect for priming because the primer's going to get all over it. What I like to do when I'm brush priming is get a nice healthy dose of primer on the brush, wipe a little bit of it off, almost like I'm dry brushing, and then basically just start going all over the model. It doesn't really matter if you get too much primer on, as long as you spread it around, right? Like you can put it on thick and you don't need to water it down as long as you spread the primer across the entire model and almost treat it like a dry brush. Like, this is my own sort of personal conspiracy theory here, but I think you only need to prime the parts of the model that are going to get touched a lot, because that's where you're likely to rub paint off, that's where you're likely to chip paint, stuff like that, right? So I'm just going over it, and actually you can just use this paper towel here and then just keep going, keep priming. Just skilly bop your way on through here, get all this, you know, like under the arms, whatever, just sort of hit it, but it doesn't need to be crazy. You're priming by hand, there's gonna be parts that you don't want to touch, you don't want to get fingerprints in the primer, so I would say just prime it and then let it dry, and then if you want to say like get under here in the legs, like under the legs, I'll just pop that off once it's dry so I don't get fingerprints in the primer, and then I'll prime the underside as well. But I'm going to do these other ones here real quick. Sometimes your primer will be a little bit too thick to get into some spots, so I'll add just like a little drop of water here. I just have a water spoon. I won't actually like water the primer down too much because you don't want to get bubbles in it. If you water it down too much, you'll get like foam in it. It's better to keep it thick and then just spread it around. But sometimes if you're having trouble like covering a flat surface with it because it's just a little bit too dry, I would water it down a little bit. But only a tiny bit. Primer is actually better if it goes on a little bit thick and then you just spread it around to compensate. There we go, nice and primed. I'll just give the base a little hoot there. Pop this one off here and do the underside now the primer's dried a bit. Got to prime the butthole of the model there, you know. All right, there's how you prime models with a brush. If you're brand new to Warhammer, no rattle can required, no airbrush required. You know, I see a lot of people talking about like, oh, zenithal this, and oh, use different primer colors that. They're all just trying to waste your time, honestly. It's like, if you start out, it's so easy. Just prime it gray, paint it how you want it. You don't need to spend a lot of time figuring out advanced techniques or anything crazy like that. Honestly, most of those techniques don't even make your model look any better, so I don't know why people are so insistent about flogging things like that. That's all I got for this video. If you like the content, like and subscribe, and maybe check out my live stream on YouTube. I just started like this week streaming on YouTube. Yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. Later, I'm out.